Good day. Welcome to our first session of HRT 201. In this course, we will be talking about what is tourism, the different concepts of tourism, and how this industry makes impacts around the world. This will be our first chapter, Tourism in Perspective. Now, the tourism industry, I call it the excitement industry. The industry that truly excites people all around the world. Let's talk about what this industry is and how it's different from other manufacturing industries. The tourism industry has a very unique feature. In this industry, the consumer moves from their zone of comfort towards where the services are produced. Now you will say, well, how is that unique? It's unique because if you think about other manufacturing industries, the products are produced at the manufacturer and then the products move to where the customers are, their zone of comfort. Hence, the products move from the manufacturing industry to the consumer. The consumer does not have to leave their zone of comfort and come towards the products. You could be sitting at home, you could be ordering your stuff, and that will be delivered to your home. You could be sitting in your place of comfort, traveling to a very small distance to a shop, buying a product, and the product comes to you. You do not have to go to the manufacturing industry or the manufacturer to get the product. On the other hand, the tourism industry, the consumer has to leave their zone of comfort, has to leave their country, has to leave their place, has to leave their residence and move to where the services are being produced, be it a hotel, be it a cruise line, be it a theme park. They have to come where the services are being offered. That's the uniqueness of this industry. Now, modern tourism as we know today is an excitement industry. It's exciting, it's fun. But would you believe that the roots of the word travel come from the word travel? Do you know what travel means? A lot of you are going to guess, is it fun? Does it mean going from one place to another? Does it mean a lot of excitement? Does it mean a lot of care? Does it mean service, hospitality? You won't believe that the word travail means pain. Now you'll be surprised. Why does the word travel that we know as today as being so much fun come from the word travail that means pain? Well, the history of our industry used to be that moving from one place to another was not fun. There used to be no cruise line, there used to be no ship, there used to be no aircraft, there used to be no trains, no buses, no motor coaches. People had to take a painstaking journey to travel. That's the root of our industry. However, with modern tourism has come mass tourism, meaning people are able to travel in masses, in huge numbers, from one place to another. Thus, mod tourism is the phenomenon of mass tourism, and that has happened today due to, number one, increased leisure time. People have more time available today than they ever had before. Today you get holidays, today you get leisure time available to you, and a lot of stress is given to relaxing, to taking out your stress, to leisure. Therefore, mass tourism is a result of increased leisure time. Another factor that has led to mass tourism is additional discretionary income. Today, people have discretionary income at their disposal. Initially, in early times, the income was just good enough for their food and water, for their basic needs. But today we realize that our basic needs are being met and we still have discretionary income at our disposal. Tourism industry gets this part of income. the tourism industry gets the discretionary income. And because we have more income today that's discretionary for us, mass tourism has increased. The third factor is enhanced telecommunications. Today's world is far more global, far more efficient, far more enhancement in telecommunications has happened than ever before. Therefore, moving from one place to another is not as complicated. The information available to you is also far more easily available than it ever was before. Internet that's available to us today puts this information at our fingertips. Therefore, enhanced telecommunications has led to mass tourism. The fourth point is more efficient transportation modes. Getting from one place to another is much more easy, much less time consuming than it ever was before. Initially, traveling from here to Africa, for example, used to take days, used to take months, but now it's literally a fly away, a plane, a plane ride away. So therefore, more efficient transportation modes has also led to mass tourism. The tourism industry faces a lot of challenges though. One of the challenges this industry faces is the nature of the product. Our product is service. Now, service is very intangible. The room itself is a product, but getting to the room is a service provided in our industry, and that service is intangible. Going to a restaurant, eating, the food available to you is a product, but we don't pay for just the food. We pay for the experience around the food, and that experience is very intangible. Thus, the nature of our product is intangible, making it difficult to jot down different points about it. For example, if you're buying a computer, you can look at the different features of the computer and you can decide your mind. But when you're buying a hotel room, the features of the hotel room are important, but more than that, it's the brand, it's the service attached to it, it's the experience that you're going to get in that hotel room that you pay a price for. That's why for a Marriott, you're going to pay a higher price than for a Days Inn. It's the same hotel room maybe, but it's the experience attached with it. It's the service attached with it that makes it complicated. Another challenge we face in our industry is that customers are more involved in the production process. The production process of the service happens right when the customer comes to the product. Therefore, the product cannot be made in isolation. The customers are part of the production process, making our industry a little bit more complicated. We also have hard to maintain quality control standards. A check-in at the front desk cannot be the same for every single guest. There are too many out of control features that take place in that experience. The customer's mood could vary the check-in process. The computer could vary the check-in process. The person who's checking in the guest could vary the process. Therefore, they are very hard to maintain quality control standards because human beings are involved and less machines. It's the service that's involved and less of the product. Another feature that makes our industry complicated is that services cannot be inventoried, meaning if you're not able to sell a service today, it's perishable. You cannot make the money from it tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day, and you're going to make more money. Our services cannot be inventoried. On the other hand, in the manufacturing industry, products can be stored, can be inventoried, meaning if you don't sell it today, you can sell it tomorrow. But our services in our industry has the perishability involved in it. The last challenge we face, and amongst many others, maybe it's not a comprehensive list, but another challenge that we face is importance of time. Time is extremely crucial in our industry. On an average, American gets 12 to 14 days of holidays in a year. The importance of time and timeliness in our industry is amazing. It's huge, making our industry a little bit more complicated. Let's move on and talk about an organization that we'll be talking about throughout our course. It is the WTO, the World Tourism Organization. We'll be coming back to this organization very often throughout the quarter. This is one of the most important organizations in the world that has a direct impact on our industry. Once again, it's called the World Tourism Organization. It's the most widely recognized international organization in our field. It standardizes terminology used in our industry. It creates a terminology so that around the world a standardized terminology can be used. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Why is standardization important? Think about it, and we'll discuss that when we meet in our class sessions. You need to keep in mind that this standardization is going to be extremely crucial in our industry, and therefore this industry that does that, this organization that does that, is going to have a huge impact on our field. So think about it. Why is standardization very important from our industry's perspective? Let's move on. The WTO definition of travel and tourism. Well, the WTO defines tourism comprising of all the different activities people get involved with when they travel outside their usual environment for not more than one consecutive year, for leisure, for business, or for other purposes. I'm going to break this definition down for you so that it's easy for you to understand. WTO defines tourism that it comprises of all the different activities people are involved with when they travel outside their usual environment. Usual environment means outside where they're accustomed to, outside their home, outside their work, outside their usual environment. However, it cannot be for more than one consecutive year. If you are staying outside your usual environment for more than a year, then we do not label that as tourism. So for example, if you're studying somewhere, you go out of state, you go out of city, you go out of country, and you're studying somewhere. If you're studying somewhere for less than a year, you become part of being a tourist. If you stay there for more than a year, then you're not considered tourist. Once again, I'll repeat. Tourism comprises of all the different activities people are involved with when they travel outside their usual environment for not more than one consecutive year, and that can be for leisure, for business, or for any other purpose. For example, studying, for example, staying with friends and family, staying with an airline company. It could be anything, but it has to be less than a year. This is how WTO defines tourism. We'll talk more about it when we meet in class. Other terminology used by WTO. Now please listen to this slide very carefully. It could be a little confusing, but listen to the slide very carefully. The first terminology we'll talk about is domestic tourism. What is the meaning of domestic tourism? Well, all the visits done by the residents of a country within their own country is labeled as domestic tourism. So for example, you're living in California. Even though you go to New York, even though from Southern California you're traveling to Northern California, if it's for tourism, which is less than a year, any visits done by the residents within their own country is labeled as domestic tourism. Let's move on. Internal tourism. All the visits done by residents as well as non-residents to the country. So for example, United States. Any visits done by the residents of United States within the country or when people come from outside to your country is labeled as internal tourism. So you can say internal tourism engulfs domestic tourism. But internal tourism is definitely bigger than domestic tourism. Let's complicate things further. International tourism. That can be broken down into two parts, inbound and outbound. Inbound tourism, visits by non-residents to the country, is called inbound tourism. So people coming into your country from other countries. Remember, it's international tourism. Therefore, visits done by people outside the United States into the country, into the United States, is labeled as inbound tourism. And visits done by United States residents to other countries is called outbound tourism. Okay, so this does not include within the country travel. This is only for international. Let's complicate things a little bit more. There is a label called national tourism. National tourism is internal tourism as well as outbound tourism. Internal tourism is residents and non-residents coming to the United States, for example. So anybody who's coming into the country, residents or non-residents, as well as the residents leaving the country and going outside, is also included in national tourism. It's a little complicated, but I hope you understand, and we're going to make it a little bit more clear when we meet in class. Let's move forward. Let's classify travelers now. Let's break them up into tourism related and non-tourism related. Now if you look at the right hand side, the non-tourism related, this is not what we are interested in. So this is not part of our industry. Look at the left hand side. Tourism related travelers. They can be broken down into two parts. One are tourists and the other one are excursionists. Both travel for leisure, for business or for other purposes, but they're different in one factor, and that's called the time factor. Excursionists are day travelers. Tourists stay overnight. So the one big difference between excursionists and tourists is the time factor. Tourists stay overnight. Excursionists are day trippers. Okay, and they both could do for business, for pleasure, or for other purposes. Let's move forward. The tourism, the world's fastest growing industry. In 2001, it was estimated to account for some $3.5 trillion of economic activity. About 207 million jobs were accounted to this industry. However, in 2011, it's estimated to account for $7 trillion of economic activity. 7 trillion, almost double. So irrespective of the depression that's taking place around the world, irrespective of the recession that's taking place around the world, our industry is somehow steadily growing and becoming big. In 2011, it will be estimated to account for 260 million jobs. Now, of course, the economic activity has doubled, the jobs have not. But that is because of the telecommunications, the advancement around us that you see, that's helping us to reduce the number of jobs but still keep the economic activity really high. Let's look at now the world's top 5 tourism destinations. You'll see 2000, you will see 2006, and you will see 2009. I want you to view this slide, but I want to discuss this slide in a little bit more depth when we meet in class. This slide talks about the world's top 5 tourism destinations. Okay? It talks about the international tourist arrivals in millions. But the next slide I'm going to show you talks about the world's top 5 tourism earners. Here you see the top countries that make the most money. So I'm going to repeat. I'll go back to the first slide. You can see here the world's top 5 tourism destinations. France comes up as a number 1. United States is not really number 1 here. But if you look at how much money we make as an earner, United States comes up in the top. We are making the most money from this industry. We'll discuss these two slides in a little bit more depth when we meet in class. Let's now talk about the different approaches to study tourism. There are various approaches that you can use to study tourism. The institutional approach. Let's talk about the different institutions to study tourism. The product approach says, well, no, let's talk about tourism as a product and then let's describe what this industry is all about. The historical approach says, well, no, let's study tourism from the history perspective because that will give us a little bit more depth of what our industry is all about. The managerial approach says, no, let's talk about it from the managerial perspective because really if you're good in management, you'll be good in this industry. The economic approach says, no, let's talk about the economic impacts of tourism because that's where what we are interested in, the bottom line, the money. The sociological approach says, no, let's look at the society, let's look at the impacts tourism makes on the society, and that's how we should study tourism. The geographical approach says, no, let's study tourism from a geography perspective, meaning where are different countries placed and because of that, how much tourism is being generated. However, the one approach that is used around the world today is an interdisciplinary approach, means a combination of all the above approaches to study tourism. The last approach is the system approach, which also has made a huge impact to study tourism. The systems approach is what I'm going to really stress more on in the next few slides. So once again, to give a summary of this slide, these are the different approaches that you can use to study tourism. And each approach brings their own perspective to this industry. But the most commonly used in our industry right now is the interdisciplinary approach and the systems approach. The systems approach tends to be the most widely used approach to study tourism. Let's talk about this approach. As per this approach, let's study tourism as a system. Tourism consists of all the processes, all the activities, all the outcomes arising from the relationships and the interactions among 5 major components. Tourist being the most important. I cannot really say it's the most important, but tourists being the core of this approach. Suppliers, people who produce our services, the hotels, the cruise lines, the theme parks, the restaurants are suppliers, also making a big impact on tourism. The government cannot be isolated. The government really makes a big impact because that's where all the laws are made, all the immigration policies are decided, the homeland security is decided. Therefore, that impacts tourism as well. So therefore, host government is a big component of this industry. The host community, the people who are going to be welcoming the people coming to their country, or they could be looking at it from an antagonistic perspective, so that's not really going to be helpful for the industry. But the community makes a big impact on this industry. And the surrounding environment, the place, the political world around you, the economic world around you, the sociological world around you will also make a big impact on the field. So once again, the systems approach of studying tourism says that tourism consists of all the processes, all the activities and all the outcomes arising from the interactions, from the relationships among these 5 main components: tourists, suppliers, government, host community and the surrounding environment. That is the systems approach of studying tourism. Let's now talk about tourism and what it means to the United States. In the US, travel spending in US really helps the economy. Tourism is the nation's 3rd largest retail industry. It's in our country's third largest retail industry only after food. So therefore, it's a big industry that has an impact on our people. It's the nation's largest service export because we get the maximum amount of money from people coming in around the world. Over 7.5 million Americans are employed directly in the travel industry, 9 million indirectly, therefore giving a total of 16 million jobs. That's huge for our industry, or for our nation, sorry. It's the first, second, or third largest employer in 29 states. And I can show you a map when we meet in class. But it's the first, second, or third largest employer in 29 states, making it a huge industry. Alright, hope you enjoyed this session. I'm going to see you back for chapter 2, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.